Welcome to Shakeytown. I'm Brody Hubbard, and that's Gene Chapel.
No,
Chapel.
exactly. God, I gotta start talking. I'm like, I, I'll be honest. That took a turn. I did not know where that was gonna go. I thought you were sending me that clip. Do you want to set this up so that people who haven't seen
Yeah.
it?
So Gene George and I don't watch the Grammys, but I saw a clip of Babyface, the R&B superstar, being interviewed ostensibly by the AP, and them just stopping mid-interview to get Chapel Roan's attention and call her over for an interview instead. And it was, and then the embarrassing apology at the end of the broadcast about it. And I sent that to Gene.
That they still talked over him and did not actually ask him a question. And I'm 100% sure, I haven't watched the clip twice, but I'm 100% sure that the question was not about women advancing in R&B. It was about the fusion of pop genres with R&B.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was I wow. Wow. I
This,
didn't realize that was the AP. I did not realize
yeah.
that was as vaunted a wire service as the Associated Press. I thought there's like, that's literally like something like, someone who has, you know, an Instagram channel where they talk about stuff would do. And it is so, oh my God. It was just like, again, did not see that turn that I was going to take.
Yeah. It was embarrassing and disrespectful. And
Yeah, it's just kind of in general. Just kind of in general. I mean,
right.
I know Chapel Roan is the new hotness, but as far as I know, as she says, she's HOTTOGO. So, I get it, but is so that was
And
embarrassing.
I
That was
guarantee you, if she had been aware of that, she would have been mad too.
oh fuck yeah. Oh fuck yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah. Anyway, so uh
Thanks for sharing,
yeah.
letting me share that with you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. That was terrible. Thank, thank, thanks for thanks for cluing me into some to people being awful people on on live TV or tape TV or whatever it was.
yes.
Anyway,
I was really excited to, I mean, always excited to see you do a recording. I let you know that I had a big old list of topics
yeah,
that
you do.
to
Let's
talk
get in.
about,
Let's
but I
do it.
wanted you to choose first.
Oh,
Interested you on this list, and for sure, if there's anything else going on that you'd like to talk about.
I think you got let's do yeah no we got I mean all I'm gonna do is rant is should get my Dennis Miller wig on my Dennis Miller 90s semi mullet on and get my the Roget's thesaurus out so that I can rant about the current political situation.
Right.
No, let's talk about I want to see I want to hear about this the WNBA and Unrivaled stuff because I saw that note that you sent and I was like, oh, people getting ejected from games. This is something I enjoy.
Yes. So it's been a very eventful week in women's basketball. It's WNBA trades and free agencies. My Phoenix Mercury is a brand new team. Brittany Griner is now with the Atlanta Dream. Natasha Cloud got traded to Connecticut Sun. We're Sophie Cunningham to the Indiana Fever. The
Wow, you got kind of like yeah, that's
Indiana Fever is getting DeWanna Bonner from the Sun as well, and so I might actually like the Fever this year because there's so many people I like on it. If they play like the Fever have played historically, flopping around and fighting, then I'm not going to like them. But the Mercury, yeah, totally not unrecognizable. I mean, we have Alyssa Thomas and Satu Sabali, who is the hot free agent this season. We have her now. It's just that all the folks that like literally signed my son to basketball the last game we were at aren't on the team anymore. And
yeah.
and we just still have Natasha Mack and Kalia Copper, and I'm really hoping they don't go anywhere. Um, Anybody else hasn't really played that much, or maybe they were injured. We'll see what happens. We'll see if Tarasi retires. But yeah, in the midst of all this, Unrivaled continues, and we've had our first ejections from. And so, what my commentary on this on the social medias was: how Angel Reese, the infamous Chicago Sky player, and I can say infamous because she things she says gets her in trouble sometimes, justified or not. Um, her most famously when she was talking about Caitlin Clark and said, "People think it's just one person bringing them to the WNBA. I bring them here too. The audience." And people were not unhappy about that, even though she's right. It is more than just Caitlin Clark.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, she got ejected from a game, and it's almost like that. How do you get fired on your day off? Like, how do you get ejected from this? What's supposed to be a fun off-season payday?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But she said she was doing it for Black History Month as the first black player to be thrown out of an unrivaled game. And sure enough, the coach of my favorite club, the Phantom, also got ejected in a subsequent game. So I think the lesson here, I think the takeaway here is referees are soft.
Yeah, that's always the take. I we can't say Black History Month anymore, Brody,
Oh no.
because of DEI and wokeness, and
That,
that's against the law now, I thought.
yes. So if taking away Hispanic heritage studies out of Arizona wasn't bad enough in the previous administration of Trump, now we have this nonsense.
Yeah, it's just worse. It's just way worse.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, uh,
And, and I didn't really want to talk about the whole plane crash thing because I know folks who were whose family was like on the ground for that and like helping out at the scene, and it's
yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a thing to be made fun of.
No, no.
What I can make fun of is the ridiculous notion that these plane crashes are happening because of wokeness.
Uh, okay. Yeah, it's always a tragedy. Is it a preventable tragedy? Maybe. Is it because of wokeness? No. Um, but the part that just makes me sad and angry is we have a president who is so fucking stupid that he not only says something like that diversity, equity, and inclusion is part of the reason why there was a plane crash, and he literally puts out a presidential memo saying that. Like it's one thing, it's one thing if a senile old man off the cuff says something stupid and racist, but like someone in the White House had to tippity tap on their computer and print something out for him to scrawl his ass signature on it to like literally say, we blame women, black people, and the disabled. Like, what? Are you fucking kidding me? Like that's the part that's like, that's it. I mean, insult to injury to the degree that is ridiculous, and that's the part that bothers me most,
Yeah,
is not that he said it, but that he literally wrote something down that is something that is going to be in the permanent record forever, that this jackassed so hard he had to do a presidential memo about it. So
yeah.
that's all I have to say about it. Is it's just, it's indicative of how stupid things are. And anyway, there you go.
So semi-related is what's happening in horror, and this is going to be a little bit of a I don't want to say a tangent, but I'm gonna dig a little deep here because in two senses. Let's talk about horror globally. There's a new Scream movie being cast right now, and folks are excited because, without giving spoilers to the Scream franchise, there's a lot of former ghost faces and victims who have been cast, and people are wondering, oh, is it going to be like a Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where it's like meta and
Yeah.
wonderful? We're going to look at
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
of Scream if it were real with the actors, or is it like if you haven't seen the last couple movies, Gene, like they have.
I, I will fully admit I have seen none of them.
Oh, okay. Well,
Not a
there you
single
go.
one. I don't, you don't really care. I know, I mean, I can't not have heard things about them,
Yeah.
but I've seen zero Scream movies.
Well, it's been very grounded in reality,
Yeah.
but there's not a supernatural element until the last couple movies. there's, without spoiling it, a relative of a former Ghostface who has visions of this fallen Ghostface who's dead, and they use a lot of CGI tricks to make the actor look like a teenager still, and it's great. And they kind of justify it in universe as well. This person has mental health issues, and so this could be a hallucination, or it's just like, an internal dialogue like on Dexter, right? It's
Right, right, right,
necessarily supposed to, we're not supposed to think of this as
right.
manifesting in real life.
Not reality, reality.
Yeah, so,
Unreliable narrators, sort of stuff.
could they be doing the same thing with Scream 7? Um, Having said all that,
It's going to be, you know what they should call it? They should call it Squid Scream and have ghost faces versus people they killed fighting each other.
Scream games.
No, I think that doesn't work.
But like folks are not really happy anyway, because the important thing to a lot of people is they're not bringing back kind of the person who's become the stand-in for Nev Campbell, because there was a new generation, and Melissa Barrera was an actress who was part of that new generation. She was very outspoken about, you know, I don't want to put words in her mouth here, so I also don't want to misconstrue what was said. She has opinions about Gaza,
Sure.
about Palestine, and the right of human beings to not be bombed. And those were construed by some as anti-Semitic. They say that if you talk a lot about um, what's happening in Israel and Palestine, and you're painting the forces there in a certain way, it's anti-Semitic. So they fired her basically. Now there's arguments like, oh, they didn't fire her; they just didn't renew her contract for the new movie.
Right.
But people are like, yep, okay, I'm done with the company that puts these out called Spyglass. I'm done with Scream, and I'm not going to watch it.
Sure.
And you know, I will be honest, I'm in this position where like the Scream franchise is one of the most important franchises to me. I've seen every one in a theater except for the one that came out closest to the pandemic. That one I did wait for streaming. I did go into a theater during that time, but every other one I've been to the theater for.
Sure.
And um, you know, I'm conflicted. I understand the nuances of the Middle East, or maybe I don't understand the nuances of the Middle East, and therefore I never feel qualified to speak on it, except to say, in general, I don't want people to die
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And the fact that somebody got fired for talking about that does rub me the wrong way. Now, this came up uh, again because my absolute favorite franchise, Terrifier, and this is pretty brand new. This happened like the day before we started
Right.
recording.
Right.
Damon Leone, who's the creator behind the franchise, came out and basically said, good people on both sides. He's like, he has two very outspoken stars. I've already done a video about this on my channel and on my social media. You can watch it. I'll let Gene take over from here in a minute. But like, basically, Damon Leone saying that his is an open tent, open circus tent for his Killer Clown movie. And people are like, why are you catering to this audience that you are afraid of losing, who have horrible politics? Why are you so scared of David Howard Thornton, who plays Art the Clown, and Lauren Rivera, who plays Sienna, and plenty of other actors in the franchise who've come out since this happened to say horror is political. You can't pretend it's apolitical, and it's weird to try to stifle that, and it's weird to
Yeah.
um, try to cater to a right wing audience that you're afraid of losing. Now, there's some implications locally, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean we went over this off the air, and I'll start by saying all art that's worth anything, including Art the Clown, see what I did there. All art that's worth anything has a political aspect to it. And as we were discussing offline, even if that aspect is your own inherent biases, but to have a point of view and to have something you want to say means you have to have something you want to say. Now, theoretically, you could say the blandest, most pap thing that you can, like, you know, people shouldn't be axe murdered, like whatever, something that's an easy lift, as they say. But but I think in this day and age, where we have such a clear. What I was thinking when you were talking earlier about the Gaza situation is there is no nuance anymore. Nuance in that situation and in our situation in America is dead, right? It's you have uh, folks who support the Israelis on one side saying anything you say against this war on Gaza on and the Palestinian people is anti-Semitic and anti-Israeli, and you have people on the other side saying I just think kids probably shouldn't be shot in the face all the time, and there's no nuance. It's like there's not a lot you can pick apart in either of those arguments. And I'm not going to say my personal feelings. Again, I also don't want children to be shot. um but in any situation, you can't avoid bringing a point of view. If you do avoid bringing a point of view, then you know you're a Thomas Kincaid painting. It's superficial, and that's fine. They can be nice to look at, but you have to have a point of view. Now, tagging on to what I just said before that is, I don't think you can avoid the issue of, look, I was a Republican. I was a registered Republican for decades, and I left that party because Donald Trump is a racist asshole. The Republican Party that I joined when I was 18, that was talking about less government and, this, that, and the other thing, that was something that I thought, yeah, we could probably do with a more efficient government. But now I could not, in good conscience, continue to be a member of a party that runs a person like that, that even when they criticize that person legitimately, his vice president said he was America's potential to be America's Hitler, and now he's his vice president. That's the kind of people that are in the Republican Party. That's the kind of people that MAGA is in the MAGA orbit. So you can't say good people on both sides. There may be good people involved. You may say, hey, I respect this person as part of this franchise, but you cannot equivocate when there is such a clear line between, I'm not going to say good and evil, but definitely the worst parts of humanity and lesser. Because I think this last few days have shown that the Democrats are not doing anything substantive to stop what's happening in politics and in Washington today. But you certainly can't say you're apolitical. You could say, if he had said, I aspire to bring different viewpoints into this and I respect the people, that would be something I would agree with. But you can't say your work is apolitical because you want it to be. Especially in a place where, like, we getting fired getting fired on your day off, and and what's her face from Scream, um, Gina Carano from Mandalorian.
Who has
I
me
mean,
blocked on Twitter?
so you can have your opinions, and those opinions can be terrible and wrong, and I can't do anything to stop you unless it's illegal, but that doesn't mean that you don't suffer consequences for them. And or I am definitely of a person who has a very difficult time not saying that's fucked up. Interrogate that message. And it feels like saying I'm apolitical is definitely good people on both sides equivocation, where art should interrogate, and I mean Art the Clown should murder them. No, art should interrogate those opinions, especially if they are marginal and or possibly damaging. This is why I feel like when there was the Republicans are weird, MAGA is weird thing happened, it had such a groundswell during the presidential campaign, because they're fucking nuts. You should be saying, every time one of these people says something, There should be four Democrats in their face going, what do you mean by that? Define how you need to have competent white people. That competent white people are the only people that can run the government. Define that for me. Are you saying that competent white men are the only people? Does that exclude white women? Does that include to exclude people of color and women of color? Does that, so you need to be holding people's feet to the fire, and to say that your work is apolitical is at best wishful thinking. And that's kind of where I land on it is you can want it to be apolitical, and again, like Gaza, I want children to go to school, have delicious, school lunches, come home to a safe place, you go to sleep warm and comfy. Like I want that. And in a perfect world, that would be something that happens. But we don't live in a perfect world. So let's interrogate why the world is imperfect and why kids are being shot in the face by the IDF and why the cluster bombed by the IDF. Those are things that need to be interrogated, and why there's a segment of the American population who is willing to write off all of the problems of the Israeli-Palestine interaction for the last 50 years. So you can't be apolitical. You can't. You can no longer be apolitical. You can aspire to it. You can want to have a world where that could be a thing, but we've long since passed. I think one of the other things I'll finish with this. One of the other things that we talked about when we talked about this offline was when I was a kid, there was bipartisanship. Now, and in the last 25 years, we've gotten to a place where Party X will not do anything Party Y wants to do, and Party Y will never do anything that Party X wants to do. There's no opportunity for bipartisanship unless it is this mealy-mouthed towing the line to the corporate oligarchs. So everyone's pulling on this rope in the same direction, in my opinion. And that direction is fuck the people, fuck the will of the people, whatever corporations and money want, corporations and money get. And so that's the only bipartisan. Look at the number of people who are voting for these insane fucking cabinet posts, that Trump is floating. Um, Democrats have to sign on to some of these fucking nutbags. Project 2025 nutbags at literal white supremacists. Fucking RFK Jr., a crackpot of the first water. So you can't tell me we live in a place where you can say my colleagues across the aisle are willing to work with us on this. We'll only send children over the age of 12 to Guantanamo Bay if they're caught with their parents when we send them to our black ops prison site that's off the coast of America because it's so fucking horrible. That neither Republicans nor Democrats closed like they said they were going to do.
Yeah.
So, that sort of shit, you can't be apolitical. You can't not have an opinion. That I think is the biggest crime. You're either a fool or an idiot. And you can't sit back and say, no, that's horse shit. So anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
I appreciate that.
And it applies to horror films, which again, never not had point of view. Even if that point of view is don't never have sex or someone will murder you at a summer camp, or even more explicit, points of view,
Right.
political.
Exactly. This has had local implications to the Arizona horror scene in that. So I talked, I think, of a couple episodes back how I was going to be involved with an event and I was snubbed. The event came out. I don't know if I.
You were Babyface. That's what we're going to call it now.
Yes, I did get baby-faced. And
Chapo.
I don't think I disclosed at the time that it was horror related, but it was horror related.
Yeah, maybe.
And really, I feel like I was kind of a casualty of a falling out between some folks, and so there's some good folks at Cinesylum.
Good folks on both sides.
uh, There are great folks at Cinesylum who are definitely on one side, and they invited me out to their showing of the bird with the crystal plumage, but the bird with crystal plumage, which is Dario Argento's first giallo, first movie, first directorial
Wow.
effort.
Really? Jesus.
Got Morricone, you know,
Marconi.
the Clint Eastwood
Yeah.
cowboy.
Woo, woo,
He
woo.
does the score. The
Tons,
cinematographer.
tons of other things, by the way.
Yes, yes. Well, same with the cinematographer who did this movie, Apocalypse Now, a bunch of good stuff. It's just like this lightning in a bottle thing. A beautiful and charming Tony Masante in an effortlessly cool lead role as a writer who gets thrown in the midst of this murder while he's visiting in Italy. He's an American, and just a great, great film. And part of like the Cinesylum's folks' efforts in like come out to the show, and we when we went, we got a good seat for you, and they were really sweet, and it was so good to see everybody and talk to everybody. And my friend Justin, who I hadn't talked to since the whole debacle last summer. um, we reconnected and it was great. I hadn't told you any of this yet, Gene, but
Mm-mm.
he's working for this new shop called Horrormonger, and you know,
Whoremonger.
Horrormonger, and he had me come out to that following our reunion at the Cinesylum event. And so I got to visit this new shop run by this great guy named Aaron, and I talked to some other
Nice.
folks that work there. And this is gonna sound like a commercial for the spot, but like I mean, it's a really cool spot. They have great horror collectibles, and
It's your
it,
ad read.
it's to say that it was really nice to get back, kind of pulled back into the thick of things by people who didn't want me to feel on the outside of them.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's good to be included, and it's good to, like, hey, there's folks still doing good stuff, even if the people that you used to be friends with and were wanting to do fun stuff with have kind of become not that anymore. And I'll say that some of it's related, it's not my story to tell, but it's definitely
Yeah,
related
sure.
to that good people on both sides kind of thing, where some people have rancid points of view and have horrible bigoted things to say, and those people, that will come out when it's ready to come out by the people whose story that is to tell. It's not my story to tell. um there are good people doing good things, and I'm glad to be back a part of that.
Yeah.
And so I did want to share that. In that similar vein, I don't know if we talked on this about Danelle Plaza, the little enclave in Tempe, with
Oh, yeah, yeah. You posted the city council video. That was
yeah. My friend Jack showed up to the city
Jeff's
council
kiss.
meeting just as Fred Flintstone because the Tempe city council people call activists in Tempe cavemen. So he showed up as a caveman. There's
But
this really cool plaza where they do art and music, and of course the city wants to bulldoze it.
of course.
I was talking to our friend Tori Holder today about, because she's still in LA and you're in LA, and there's all sorts of great stuff always going on in LA, and
Oh, it is ginormous.
in Chicago and Portland and New York, and what happens in the greater Phoenix area is that,
They bulldoze the place where people want to do that stuff.
yep, you either have bigots ruining the things we're doing, or you have the city trying to bulldoze it. And so either way, it sucks. And so it was good to run into those people too. There's somebody I hadn't seen in 25 years who showed up to this thing, who like I
Damn,
knew was like this ska kid. And it's funny, I have to circle back to them. I'm like, I think we were in a band for a minute. I think we
son.
played in a band at Modified Arts. And I'm now of the age that I have to like think back and like, did I do that? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah,
That's
was I
how old
there
I
or
am.
did I participate?
And like, they're like a parent and they work at the college now. And like, it's just weird that like, what do you mean 25 years have passed since we talked last? Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
odd.
yeah,
Um, but it was cool to see my friends there, and all the cool art and things. The kind of the moral of the story is that like there's still people doing good things and bringing community together. Tori was talking about I don't think I'm telling tales out of school. She sees a lot of efforts to keep things running. There was uh there's like a, gosh, I want to get this name really quick. uh, but yeah, there's good things going on in the community. There's still people doing events. There's people doing fundraisers for each other to recover from the fires, and you know, I'm glad to see that in Los Angeles. I'm glad to see that here. And what was the library that burned down? I don't think it was in Altadena. It was
The Palisades? I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. Um there was a Palisades library that had a big zine collection,
Oh well.
and like it burned down, and it was so sorry to hear because I know the curator of that,
Hmm.
somebody who during the craziest times of my life did something very sweet for me to help me out, and who I feel indebted to. Um
Well,
and
while you're getting that name, the I was listening to the news on the way to dropping my son off at school, and Malibu, of course, is doing the most Malibu thing in the aftermath of the fires. They are denying the FEMA and the EPA a place to handle the toxic waste from the fires in Malibu because, quote, to quote one of the people at that town hall meeting, people don't come to Malibu to see toxic waste cleanup. And I'm like, dude, look, like half the town burned down. It's toxic. It needs to be cleaned up. And you're like, yeah, we can't have this in Malibu. Not in my completely devastated backyard. Like but I had to laugh. I had to laugh, but it's just like now here we are. Nature is healing. The NIMBYs sprout up again after the fire, like seedlings.
it was the Pacific Palisades Library.
Oh, okay. Was it?
And it's my friend Ziba, who was a librarian there and who had curated that collection, and is she's an LA Zine Fest organizer now and still does great stuff. She's on Twitter at DJ Ziba Z. But yeah, it was the Pacific Palisades Library, which I think was
Yeah.
her former branch. Um, so it's just a bummer when uh, stuff gets
Yeah, we're gonna be digging out of this again. Just like every time they post a list of things that no longer exist,
yeah.
it's I'm not a West Side Palisades kid. I know a lot of people who are. I'm definitely a Valley kid, but still, growing up around here, going doing things, you encounter a lot of those places, a lot of restaurants, a lot of places like libraries and stuff like that. And Altadena especially. I mean, I'm way more Eaton Fire adjacent than I am Palisades adjacent, and I know I've worked in Pasadena for 25 years, and know a lot of folks up in that area. So you
Yeah.
know, it's just I don't even know. I don't even know. Hopefully things come out better in spite of the fact that it's terrible now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's kind of the catch all for I feel like everything that's going on, you know. So
I was an East Sider. I was an Atwater Village, Highland Park person. I know
yeah,
Tory Rock's going to be Tory Rock. Tori's going to be at Eagle Rock. Is what I'm trying to say.
Tory
Tori
Rock,
will be at Eagle Rock Zine
Tory
Fest,
Eagle, Tory Eagle will be at Rock Fest. What?
and like I'm so disconnected from all the events going on there. I know LA Zine Fest is coming up, and I know people are tabling and organizing. Good people on both sides.
Good people on both sides.
um, do you watch Severance?
I do. Okay. So I'm one episode into the second season.
We got
Uh,
both sides.
uh, um, I'm one episode into the second season. We're 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 waiting for them to build up
Yeah,
because my wife, with shows like Severance, there are a few shows where she cannot not binge them. If there's no if there's a gap between things, like it will drive her absolutely crazy. So we'll watch stuff that is either already all released or it's less like maddening to not uh to not to have to wait.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we watched the first episode, but we haven't watched anything since.
I finally watched it. I hadn't realized it had already been on the air for 3 years, like that first season.
Mm.
And
3 years or two?
3 years.
Well, 3 years, but 2 seasons.
I'm sorry. Yes, yes. The first.
Okay, I'm like, did I miss? Wait, hold on a second, time out, because that has happened. Like we've watched a show, especially when the kids were little. Like we'd start a show, and then like, wait, did we stop watching that? Like, yeah, that was when Fletcher was throwing up every 2 hours or whatever. It's like, yeah, we stopped watching that and then dropped it, and then we come back, and I'm like, I don't remember this having 5 seasons or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of shows I feel like about that about. So like a lot of things that have come across my radar, TikTok. I just saw a bunch of TikToks. I was like, fine, I'll watch this show. That's how I started watching The Bear. Like I was like, okay, I've
Mhm.
seen enough intriguing TikTok clips. I'll go watch the Severance, and really enjoyed it. I'm game for anybody who wants to talk about.
Where are you? Where are you in the?
I'm all caught up.
Oh, you're all caught up.
I
All caught
binged
up.
the first season and the first two episodes, and I
Oh,
had to wait a couple days for the newest episode.
I
So,
see because I see your note here, and I don't know if this is something
oh,
that I don't know if this is something that is going to be spoily in
yeah, no,
the
I mean
next couple episodes that I haven't seen.
it's not. Here's what I'm
Okay.
going to do. All right, so we're not going to spoil Severance. What I'm going to tell you is the premise of the show. It's not.
There's the spoiler is there's good people on both sides.
Yes. The idea behind Severance, kind of the sci-fi conceit, is that you get a microchip implanted in your brain, you walk into work, something gets flipped, and you are a totally different personality. You are a work personality called an innie, and you do your 8 hours, and when you're done, you walk out, and they flip the switch again, and you are back to your normal self. And so it's basically like sleeping through your workday. So you have work-life balance because you don't have to be conscious of what you're doing at work. The problem is, the side effect is that there's this whole new personality called an innie that's like your work self. And the show kind of explores what happens when people stop being polite, start being real. No, when what happens when the innie wants to have a life, like what happens, and what's the potential for exploiting these innies. Like you could be torturing a person in there for 8 hours and then they walk out and they have no idea that it even happened. So that's the premise, and there's a lot in there. Talk about like no work is apolitical. Like this talks about worker issues and exploitation, but it also talks about just kind of the role of even women in the workplace or outside of the workplace, because it gets very complicated very fast. There's some suspense, not, I want to say spy thriller, but like kind of
Yeah, no,
logical.
there's definitely some. I mean, especially in the first season, there's definitely some intrigue, and I would say it is suspense,
Yeah,
sci-fi suspense.
yeah.
There's some thrillery elements.
But
I
straight
mean,
horror elements as far as I'm concerned.
no, I was just gonna say there's definitely some horror elements, both body horror and mental health horror, and like you say, the literal severing between the two personas of your work persona and your outside, and and which one is real and
Mhm.
which one deserves to have a life, and
Yeah.
so
And all those issues come to a head with the cliffhanger of the first season. And the second season, again, no spoilers, is like the ramification of all that coming to a head. But yeah, the note I had said to Gene before the show was like, it just makes me think of Total Recall, because Total Recall was about a guy who wanted to have a vacation and had this scenario. Here's what my ideal girlfriend would look like in Adventures in Mars. And then he gets
yeah.
the thing implanted in his head and everything goes amok, and
Maybe.
maybe
Maybe everything goes in, yeah, so that I think it's definitely there's definitely a heavy dollop of Philip K. Dick, which who wrote the original uh story that Total Recall was based on, and there's definitely and dealt with, what it means to be human. Do androids dream of electric sheep, which became Blade Runner? We Can Remember It For You Wholesale, which became Total Recall, and a lot of his stuff deal with identity and reality and the bending of those, you know, all so there's a heavy, like I said, there's a heavy dollop of that in Severance, where you know when you make two people out of one person, and that person who's basically just literally supposed to be like an office drone, to whatever purpose that the company wants them to do, because it's still unclear what they're actually doing. No spoilers, I mean, but it's why are you surprised when those humans start humaning?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, but there's definitely a lot of uh horror and the existential cosmic horror kind of,
Yeah.
in the what does it mean to be a person kind of sits or I mean, and there's also some you know uncomfortable thriller-esque kind of things where you're like, I wanted that to happen, kind of thing. But yeah, it's definitely one of the better shows that have come down the road in a long time, and hopefully, so far, like I said, I'm one episode in, to the new season. So far, it is keeping up the canopy of the previous season. A lot of times when something's a high concept as that, like I mean, Lost is the perfect example. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that they have, a 3-4 season arc figured out, that is not going to be like, oh, now what do we do? They're all dead. Bum bum. Oh, spoiler. Bum bum bum. Like, if that's a spoiler, then you're dumb. Like, that, because that was the thing that Lost is. That's the thing that Lost pissed me off about, and that I've been burned about. Battlestar Galactica too, and I've been burned about a few times. Is, if you're going to make a trite ending, like, at least lift it slightly more than A to B.
Yeah.
You know, do the second thought. Do your second thought. Oh no, they're all dead and it's purgatory. What? Like, Rod Serling's shambling corpse should crawl out of its grave and, just punch you in the face. Like that's the thing, is it's like, at least make it something a little more creative than the first thought that everyone was saying. Well, I bet you it's because they're all dead. And it's like, it's kind of like, you don't do the thing that the entire world is thinking it's going to be.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that Severance, like I said, so far it seems like it's not running out of steam. Um, you know,
Well, it had the benefit of, well, it had the benefit of having a lot of time invested into mapping it out, because between the pandemic and the writer's strike and the actor's strike, there was a lot of downtime between seasons. So they were able to really,
yeah, see, I feel like that's the sort of thing you need to think about ahead of time. Like, I think you don't need to, like you need to come in with like a 3 season arc, and
sure,
say everyone is making cookies in this factory, but it turns out that the cookies are made from people. And then and then in the second season, we find what they do when they find out about this. And in the third season, they attack the government overlords who are turning people into cookies. And you need to have a tight, like, 10 episodes of this, 10 episodes of this, and then it ends with this. And then if you continue it, maybe there's some other stories to tell. But I really do feel like that sort of Lost Battlestar Galactica thing, where it's like, you didn't think about this, did you? Like, you were too busy writing individual episodes of a TV show, that then when it came to time to wrap it up, you were just like, dun 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 dun, dun wah,
yeah.
you know. So we'll
I,
see,
I for one, am excited to see Baked from the Mind of Gene George
right?
this season
Right.
when the cookie crumbles.
Yes, exactly. Uh, boo.
Let
Anyway,
me
I'm available for
let me do
writing.
let me do my line reading to audition. Okay, you ready?
Do you think?
We need more chocolate chips on line 7.
See, there you go. Perfect. That's you got the job, man.
Thank you. You know,
Yeah.
I've re-upped my my acting career this year.
Oh,
I
how you?
I'll be in two. I'll be in. I if all goes well, I'll be in 2 movies coming out this year. So
Nice.
by
Gotta get those
directors.
IMDb credits up.
Yeah, yeah. You could see some of that now. I'll say here that um my friend Roger Connors has a movie coming out um called Meat, Meat, and he plays Brody is his character's name, Brodie. And so I acquired a little role in Mark Mackner's next Daisy Durkins movie, and I said, "Can you?" Because Roger Connors had been Brody in that
Did they name you
movie.
Roger?
I asked Mark, "Will you let my character be named Roger?"
Nice.
So, um,
See, those
glad.
are those Easter eggs, man.
Yes, yes. And then I can't talk about the other thing yet, but if all goes to plan, I will be shirtless and crazy in this cameo that I did. So I'm excited for
Fair enough. Fair
that.
enough. Yeah, Severance. Severance is a good show. Trying to think of what Silo. We've been watching Silo,
Okay.
which is another one that has a couple seasons that I'd been hearing good things about, but we hadn't watched. And um, the worst thing I can say about Silo, well, the worst thing I can say about Silo is there's a couple of for those of you who may not have seen it, it's on Apple TV, I think, like Severance, but uh, it's Fallout, but without any of the fun parts. Everyone is crammed into this giant vault silo.
Yeah.
It's vertical, so the power plant stuff is at the bottom, and the rich people, or the upper classes, are at the top. Um, and the worst thing I can say about it is if you're building a play, first the main character is an engineer. She works in the power plant, and keeps the power plant running, and then she gets involved in all this intrigue. But you're building a power plant. Maybe you ought to have some better backup systems. If that was like one of the first big like doohickeys in the first season was there's something wrong with the generator, and they have to stop it. But in order to stop it, they have to basically cut power to everyone in the silo, to bare minimums for an hour or whatever. But it's a geothermal plant, which is cool. I think that's obviously if you're going to run something that's going to last hundreds or thousands of years or potentially whatever, it's the way to do it. But there's no safety valve. I'm like, I'm not a civil engineer. I'm not a geothermal technician or a power plant engineer or an electrical engineer or a mechanical engineer, an engineer of any kind. But I would think that you'd want a way to not have pressure build up in your system and vent it somewhere. Just a thought in case you have to take it offline, or redundancy, like, something that's been around for hundreds of years. At this point, we don't know how far in the future the silo is, but maybe you should have two generators, two turbines, so you can take one offline for maintenance. Like that's the part that really, really bothered me, because the world building's pretty good, but man, that one thing was just like, so you don't have a redundancy. You don't have a redundant system where you can shut one off and turn the other off, turn the other on. Come on, man. And the other one is Rebecca Ferguson plays the main character from Dune. She played Paul's mom in Dune. And her accent is variable, shall we say.
Yeah.
Everyone in the silo seems to be American or American-ish, American accent-ish, but she didn't it feels like she didn't put a lot of effort into maintaining it.
She's Swedish British.
Yeah.
I think.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, but I mean, I'm pretty sure she normally speaks with a generic sort of British accent. Um, in the other work that she's done, and it's just there's some times where she's talking, it's a talky show. There's some talking going on, and there's just sometimes where my ear just it like It's Janos Poha from Ghostbusters 2. That's an interesting accent, Janos. Where are you from? The Upper West Side. Like, where are you from? Like, I'm from Boston. What, the one in England or the one in North America? You
I'm
know,
I'm sorry to say I haven't seen any of her work, but she's going to be in the next Catherine Bigelow film, so that's cool.
you haven't seen Dune?
No, no.
Oh, yeah. You should see. I mean, I haven't seen Dune 2, but yeah, she's good. I mean, I she's good in this, except for the fact that it's like, there are some actors that can pull it off, and she's just not quite there. Maybe
Yeah,
she gets better in season two. I don't know.
see. I
Anyway,
did like Fallout. Colleen and I on the Video of the Damned kind of year end wrap up of like 2024 stuff. We were talking about how great Walton Goggins is on that, and really
yeah.
anything he does. I'll
Oh
repeat
yeah, yeah. He's
I'll repeat myself here. What I said there is that everybody kind of raves about Nicolas Cage being an insane actor, and I don't think people realize that I've watched more Walton Goggins interviews than the average person, and like he is an insane actor in the best way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think part of it is Walton Goggins. Walton Goggins slots into everything that I've seen him in so well. Like, this is the dude that was the bad guy in Justified, like the crazy evangelist brother in Righteous Gemstones, and a ghoul bounty hunter in Fallout, and they're all of a piece, right? I think Nick Cage I think Nick Cage is Nick Cage in everything, almost everything he does. I think it's been a long time since he's disappeared into a role. I think you get. I feel like the parody, the Get in the Cage, the Andy Samberg parody on SNL is it's the perfect Nick Cage role. Every line is either whispered or screamed, and it's. I feel like Nick Cage is hitting that Jack Nicholson place where it's not often that you think of him as like, oh man, that was a good Nick Cage movie, as opposed to, man, Baby Billy in Righteous Gemstones is awesome. He's an awesome character, and Walton Goggins is a great actor.
Yeah,
I feel like that to me is the difference. He is insane. I mean, he is perfect.
yeah.
You but definitely of a piece of really good work.
And I could say I've seen him since the beginning. 1997, Robert Duvall's The Apostle. He had like a small role, and I was just like, "Who is that interesting looking dude?"
I
And
think
he played a very you know, gosh, not the most mentally deep character in that, and definitely the opposite of who he is in real life.
yeah.
Uh, at least my image of him from the many interviews that he's
Yeah,
done.
yeah. He seems like a good guy.
Yeah.
Like he seems like he's got his head on straight. Shield. The Shield is the first thing I remember him from.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that was funny when I started watching Shield. I'm like, oh, it's that
Dude
yokel
from the
from the
Apostle.
Apostle.
Yeah, so the Shield is definitely my first. Goggins is Walton Goggins loves his cloggins. Um, which I can't wait for the next season of. I know he's in White Lotus.
Mhm.
He's coming up doing White Lotus. Righteous Gemstones is coming up
Yeah,
too, which is going to be the final season.
yeah, it'll be
So
great.
yeah,
For as much as I wasn't a fan of the modern Halloween trilogy, those guys who all work together on Vice Principals and Eastbound and Down and Righteous Gemstones,
yeah,
that stuff I love.
yeah. That Danny McBride and his posse.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I love those shows.
Yeah,
Which I'm wearing a Halloween 3 shirt at the moment. Um, I quite famously was disappointed by the well, I'm not me quite famously, but people I am of the people who were quite famously disappointed in how that whole thing wrapped up. Although, there's a couple good moments in that Halloween trilogy. Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. Um, it's just, have we talked about it before?
I don't think we have. I don't because I didn't see again. I did not see. I saw the originals.
Yeah,
Um,
I would say it's worth watching the trilogy, but like, I will love to circle back to this October if you do watch it, so we could talk
yeah.
about how Halloween ends. Um, it's there's kind of a if you remember Poochie from The Simpsons from it
Oh
changed.
shit.
There's a
See, he
Poochie.
died. He died going back to his home planet.
There's definitely a Poochie of the Halloween franchise.
See, uh, really want to watch it now.
Uh,
I just found out they remade The Thing.
yeah, yeah, and they did a prequel thing too. And
I
I
just
mean, that's like three or four things now. Not to be confused with the Canadian shot on video Things, which is its
things.
own horrid adventure.
No, dude, I just why? Why did you remake that? I might have to watch it just to be angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, because it came up the other day. Oh, I think I was trying to figure out because I'm pretty sure I watched it with my kids, but I was trying to figure out if I had it on DVD or if I bought it on streaming, and I bought it on streaming, and then when I was looking for it, I found wait, there's like a 2020 thing or whatever, 2017,
Yeah.
whatever year it came out, and I was just like, oh, come, because that is simply one of the best movies ever made.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I might, uh, top five, top 10, top 10. Anyway, uh,
Any anything else we want to hit before we
uh, do we get cover all the stuff?
definitely covered my list.
I don't know. Elon Musk is a twat. He needs to be tarred and feathered and run out of town on a rail.
Yeah.
Like that's the only other thing that I can think of.
Yeah, we'll see how things develop politically with tariffs and budgeting and all sorts of fun economic stuff that has real life ramifications on people's safety and very lives.
Yes, yeah, but it's like sure you're a billionaire and you don't need to worry about it, but not everyone else in this country is a billionaire. You jackass.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the thing that I'm getting out of that is these people don't care about you. No one cares about you. you know. I don't know, man. Yeah, no, I don't have anything else to talk about.
What do we call this episode Chapel Chapel or good people on both sides?
I think we should call this Babyface is a legend. I think Babyface is the one. We that just the more I think about that, the more everything is wrong with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was bad enough, and then the apology was kind of weird and weak sauce, and then the secondary, like towards the end, when the other one, I don't know the names of those ladies that were doing the interview, but when the second one was all like, and I'm sorry that I was a part of it. Like, it's yeah, of course you're sorry that you're a part of it because it sucks and you're dumb. But, it's just like, I, I just, I don't know, man. I don't know. That whole thing just, it's indicative of something. We're, we're in the end times. I don't know. That's it.
Maybe you got baby faced.
You got baby faced.
Like that's the perfect title.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway. That's all. Oh. No, no. We have one more thing to talk about. Sarah
Yeah.
Sherman.
Oh, I just I
Because I
shared
haven't seen the thing that you shared because I'm not on the
oh
Twitter.
it's the celebrate the 50th anniversary of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. The Texas Chainsaw people sent Sarah Sherman of Saturday Night Live a chainsaw. And
That seems like a terrible idea.
well, what I think would be a great idea is because the Texas Chainsaw franchise has gone through so many weird ups and downs. Really
Mhm.
briefly, you have the first classic,
Yep.
you have the second campy horror comedy, also classic, that Tobe Hooper was also behind and introduced the world to Bill Moseley. Um, and then you have a third installment called Leatherface, which is just kind of like paint by numbers, I mean, definitely some great performances and special effects and stuff, but like suffers from, studio notes and weird editing and then being kind of dumped out on probably home video market. I don't know for sure. I know there was a really cool campaign behind it at the time where like Leatherface came out in the water and, like with raising the chainsaw like um uh
Like
King
the
Arthur.
Lady of the Lake.
Yeah. Then the Texas Chainsaw, the Next Generation, which they tried to bury and was like such a mess narratively, but introduced the world to Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger and involves the Illuminati. Like it gets really weird. Then there were remakes, reboots. Then you got Texas Chainsaw 3D with Alexandria Daddario as the forgotten Leatherface cousin who inherits the farm.
What?
Um, I like it. It's a really bizarre movie, and also like you know, we're supposed to buy her as a young woman in her 20s, which she was at the time as an actress. But if you do the math of like when Texas Chainsaw's original events come,
Yeah.
that girl would be like 50 years old or
Yeah, she'd
something.
have to be 45.
Like what was also cool about it is they got Bill Moseley and Gunnar Hansen, and the original grandpa, and Bill Moseley takes on the cook role, the Jim Siedow role, in this the little thing at the beginning, where the family gets David Koresh,
Oh God.
and then they try to reboot it again, like so give us a continuation, not a reboot, just like make it another weird family, and you can have Sarah Sherman as either the final girl or a member of the Sawyer family. She could really fit.
Or a dual role, man. Peter Sellers, that bitch.
Parent Trap it.
Parent Trap it. Oh, dude, identical cousins. Yeah, yeah, totally. Oh, that would be hilarious. Yeah, that would be all right. I'm down with that. I had something. I had something.
Oh, and I want directorial duties to go. Have we talked about all jacked up and full of worms?
I think we touched on it before, but I don't think I don't know if we talked about it here.
All jacked up and full of worms, which is directed by Alex Phillips, a Chicago filmmaker, and he's done work with Sarah Squirm. Like she was
Yeah,
in
because
a
she came out of Chicago, right?
yeah, she was in a really wacky music video that he directed.
Oh, interesting.
I want to
Uh,
give him the next Texas Chainsaw installment.
yeah, so I think the reboot there should or the reimagining should be talk about that all of that. Like start the movie with people like like a Reservoir Dogs diner scene where it's like, oh yeah, and they were saying all kinds of crazy shit like the Illuminati were involved. you know and just break it all down like that. But nobody knows what really happened out there, but people have all these crazy notions. like
Yeah,
like
I
that's how I would do it. That's how I would do it.
I've wanted. I may have talked about this before. I want a Friday the 13th like that,
Yeah,
called uh 13 short films about Jason Voorhees. And it's like give one of them to Rob Zombie, give one of them to make one in animation, like
nice.
just have clips when Jason was on Arsenio Hall. Like,
Nice.
you might as well go meta and out of the box with this stuff now because you've already have avant-garde kind of like portrayals of slasher films with In a Violent Nature where
Yeah.
they deconstruct the genre. You have
Well, I
uh
think I think American Psycho. That's like the first thing that I remember where you know, it was super stylized,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, from that point on, you were again nuance is dead. No, but yeah, that would be a good way to do it. That would be a good way to do it.
So if
We
anybody
just need to
wants
get
to
the
build
rights. Yeah,
projects and has the rights, let us know.
yeah, exactly.
We'll get that done. We'll get When the Cookie Crumbles done,
That's right.
the Cookie
Gotta
Factory
wait.
thriller by the baked mind of Gene George or what have you.
Half baked. It's pretty half baked.
uh,
Yeah, yeah. Just gotta have an ending, man. Gotta have anyway. That's it. That's all. I just didn't know if there was something that was intriguing to me. The
yeah,
Texas Chainsaw tweet.
Chainsaw Sherman. Yep.
Like, hopefully, was it a real chainsaw? Because
I'm pretty sure the picture will be up in the thumbnail for this episode for sure.
no, was it? But was it a Texas Chainsaw Massacre chainsaw? Was it branded like
Yeah, branded. Yeah, with 50 because it's gonna be yeah, it's the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live as well. So
interesting? Super weird.
yeah.
Um, hang on here. What kind of chainsaw did he use? Was it a Husqvarna?
I am not as up, and I'm sending you the
I don't
picture.
know. I don't know nothing about nothing.
You now have the picture of Sarah.
Never occurred to me to think what there we go. Hang on.
What
Oh,
what kind of chainsaw?
what kind of chainsaw? Oh, that's hilarious. Dude. I don't know. It doesn't look real. I think it's foam.
Oh,
I think
I
it's
guess
foam.
it could.
Just seems like a bad idea. Setting a live chainsaw. Anyway. Yeah, no, I can't it's 50 years old, dude. I mean, I knew Saturday Night Live was 50. I didn't think about I always feel like my awareness of Texas Chainsaw Massacre is a few years, obviously, because I was 4 or 5 years old when it came out.
Yeah,
So I didn't become aware of it. I think I was aware of Saturday Night Live before I was aware of Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
sure.
So it always struck me as that Jaws, like 77, seems to me to be the Texas Chainsaw Massacre when it came. If you had asked me before today what year the Texas Chainsaw Massacre came out, I would have probably said like 77, 76.
You have to look at Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Last House on the Left as kind of like these fundamental texts in horror. Um, and certainly there's thrillers and giallo that precede or surround all of that. But as far
Right.
as like the American slasher,
Right.
you get kind of like the nasty sort of true crime killing that happens in Last House on the Left, and
Right.
those implications go into like as far as like even like the early 2000s with like you know the August Underground series and and shot on video stuff too, just like gritty real life. You feel icky for watching it.
Yeah, uncomfortable. Like I
Right.
said, that to me is like the difference. There's
Yeah.
like Friday the 13th never made me feel uncomfortable.
Right. But so here's the wild thing though. So Last House on the Left, you get both Sean Cunningham, who creates Friday the 13th, and you get Wes Craven, who creates Nightmare on Elm Street. And then, Black Christmas obviously it sets a blueprint for slasher that is then followed up on by Halloween, which is also a fundamental text. But as far as like the proto kind of slashers,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think Black Christmas, Last House on the Left, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre is where it all
Yeah,
begins.
totally. I know, I agree.
And Halloween is like defines the genre. I think it's fair
I
to say.
think Halloween was that crossover. Everybody saw Halloween.
Yeah, yeah,
I saw Halloween when I was a kid.
yeah.
Like we went to the same drive-in that I saw Star Wars at. I saw Halloween at, and I fell asleep halfway through. Yeah, that was I remember that. I remember seeing Halloween at the drive-in in Huntington Beach when I was a kid. That was also the first time I heard the Beatles song "Come Together." It's like I remember both of those things at drive-in and falling asleep in the middle of Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that was the thing that made everyone realize that, you know, oh yeah, these kinds of movies still happen, and they're not necessarily because I mean, I grew up, my mom was a big horror fan, so I was, I think, a lot more aware of, old Vincent Price movies and things like that, that Hammer horror kind of B movie horror and thriller stuff.
Right.
But I think Halloween was the thing that made everybody realize, oh, that this is a thing, mainstream, you
Right.
know.
Right. And it
Um,
makes sense when you frame it like that. It makes sense why that was the one revival that actually hit at the box office, because there were
yeah,
failed attempts with Friday the 13th, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and Nightmare on Elm Street. As far as kind of, when I say failed, I shouldn't say failed. Maybe not as financially lucrative as everybody involved hoped. We'll
yeah,
say.
no, no, no. I really do think that's true because everyone saw Halloween. Everyone saw Halloween. Um, I do, but again, I do, and I think Halloween is creepier and uncomfortable. I think Friday the 13th is ridiculous.
Right.
Like it's so over the top, and it's way more of that Grand Guignol,
Yeah.
sex, tits and blood kind of thing where it's more, if I would say, it's the prurient side of horror as
Yeah.
opposed to like John Carpenter's stuff tends to be a lot more cerebral, even if there's some stabbing and blowing things up and burning people and whatever.
Yeah.
The Fog, like the Fog's a creepy fucking movie.
Yeah.
Um, Prince of Darkness still, to this day, I maintain Prince of Darkness is the scariest horror movie ever made from a cosmic horror standpoint, from a everything you know about the universe is fundamentally flawed, up to and including the entire, you know, Christian faith and the Catholic Church is basically designed to keep, Cthulhu at bay, chaos at bay. It's like that like I've been grossed out by movies. I've been jump scared by movies. I've been icked out by movies. But Prince of Darkness is the only movie that I wake up going, man, that would suck if it was true. Like, like, oh, so it's basically like Donald Pleasance's, the last line of defense against the unmaking of the universe kind of thing. You know,
my,
uh,
my personal religion is that is still true in real life.
it is, it is. Yeah. So yeah, that I think is. Yeah, but Halloween's ubiquitous. Halloween's ubiquitous.
Yeah.
I think it's the William Shatner mask. Everyone, everyone loves Shatner, so why wouldn't they love someone in a William or inside out William Shatner mask? Reverse.
Could ask George Takei about that if everyone does truly look at there, because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he likes him very much.
Ask the Red
But,
Letter Media guys.
if you asked him, I'm sure he would say he has plenty of very, very admirable qualities. 'Cause I feel like Takei's a booster.
Yeah.
I told you my Takei story, right?
No,
Not
no,
a
we
Takei story.
have a minute left, so tell us.
Okay, it's not actually directly like I met him or anything. My buddy Aaron and I were watching TV in the '80s, as you did, and we were flipping through, and we stopped because he was on QVC or Home Shopping Club or whatever, and they were selling Star Trek miniatures,
Yeah.
and they asked him, what can you tell us about this?" And it was the Enterprise from Next Generation, and Takei's response was, uh, "That's the from the Star Trek the Next Generation. I was on the original series, but it does have a fine pewter sheen." That's how I think of George Takei is it's like, he's not going to shoot you down. He's not going to be like that's not my job. But he had something nice to say about it. And
Yeah.
it does have a fine pewter sheen. So every now and again I think of that. Like it's not my Enterprise, but it does have a fine pewter sheen. Anyway, there you go. That's it. We're done.
we're putting our fine pewter sheen on the end of this episode, this king-sized episode.
And it turns out we were dead all the time, and this is purgatory.
Yes, but it wasn't political.
No political, no political stuff. Hail Trump.
Good
Hail
people.
Hydra. Good people on both sides.
So until next time, be
You're either
babyface, but
be
don't.
babyface. Don't get baby-faced. You're either a babyface or you're a Chapel Road. Anyway, all right, man.
Good seeing you, man.
You too. Love you, buddy.
Love you too.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Shakeytown was created by Brody Hubbard and Gene George. You can find us on various social media platforms under those names. You can also find the show on YouTube at Shakeytown and on Blue Sky at Shakeytown. We also still have accounts on Facebook, X, and Instagram at Shakeytown Radio, or just go to shakeytownradio.com.